Hello, everyone. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to another episode of the Back of the Pack podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Walker. Thank you so much for tuning in. I want to read to you a message that I received amongst many other people on Saturday morning. So I'm going to read it to you as it came to me. It is with a profound sorrow that we announce that Scott Green passed away at 12:03 on 3/23/24, just 2 days after his 56th birthday. He was at home, surrounded by loved ones and a care team that saw him through to his final breath. He knew he was loved all the way to the end. We cannot say thank you enough for everything that has been done for Scott and our family. Please continue to share your favorite memories of the bearded runner. We do ask please respect the family's privacy at this time as arrangements are being made. We will keep this page updated with any memorial plans. Lastly, a reminder from Scott himself, take care of yourself and your family and don't be so serious. So I wanted to kick off the show by putting that out there. We've talked about it before. We did the beard run just 2 weeks ago for Scott to help raise money for him and his family and final expenses as he fought cancer. Scott did pass the morning of the Liberty Half Marathon, and we're going to get into why that's important. But before we get into that, I am speaking simply for me. This is just for Kyle Walker. This might not even be for anyone else who listens to the Back of the Pack podcast or help me produce it or do anything with it. This is for me. The reason that this is not sad for me. I am not shedding tears for Scott right now. I celebrate everything that Scott did. And the one thing I want to caution, and again, you can tell me to shove it directly. I understand. But for me, I am never going to sit here and say that Scott lost his battle with cancer. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. If anything, I think Scott absolutely whooped cancer's ass. All Scott did, because Scott was a runner and because we are all runners, Scott finished his race. All right, Scott finished his race here on Earth. This race is done. I think that he won. He wasn't first place. He wasn't last place. He's just another finisher of this race called Earth. And so now, whatever is out there, whatever race is next in the great beyond, I'm sure he has already towed the starting line of that one and is off on his next race. A race where cancer can't touch him, cancer can't hurt him, cancer can't affect him or his loved ones or his friends or his family or anyone. So I am not going to sit here and say that cancer beat Scott because I don't agree with that one little bit. Scott absolutely kicked cancer's ass. Scott has moved on to his next race. We're runners. We don't stop at one race. We don't just cross one finish line and be like, we're done. No, that's not what we do. He crossed a finish line the morning of the Liberty Half Marathon, and he has just simply gone along to the next starting line. So that is how I see it. I certainly mourn the person that we lost selfishly, mourn the person that we lost for him. There's nothing in the world that would bring him back. He is now cancer free and off running his next adventure and running his next race. So trust me, I know he's thrilled wherever he is at right now in that great beyond. Whatever you think is next, then that's where he is doing his thing. For us, we just mourn that we lost a great running friend and a great running mentor and a great running, I don't know, just a running ambassador for the area of Kansas City and for Liberty itself. So, did you guys know that Scott was from Liberty? I didn't know this until very recently. Scott was in Liberty the morning, even at 12:03 of the Liberty Half Marathon, of which he was an ambassador, of which we all went up there to run because it is one of the bigger half marathons in this area. It is one that we all need to do if we're doing the Heartland 39.3 series. We have to do Liberty. We want to do Liberty. We can kind of look at Liberty as pretty much Scott's race, and he passed the morning of that race. So instead of him, maybe, because this was just talk that I had heard, maybe he was going to be able to post up somewhere and wave at the runners that went by. In his very frail, very tired, very cancer fighting form. Instead, he moves on at 12:03 in the morning and he gets to watch over all of us at that race. And tell me, if you were there at Liberty and if you knew that Scott had passed, didn't you feel it? I felt it. Like I really did. I could feel the love and the presence of Scott and just the warmth that he put in all the people's hearts. I felt it that morning and I felt it that race. And me personally, I ran my best Liberty Half Marathon ever, and it wasn't even close. Now, was it a PR for me? No, it was not. Not a personal record. However, it was a Liberty half marathon personal record, and it was a full 8+ minutes faster than last year. Okay. For me, I flew through that course better than I ever had before. And since I knew that mile 5 was the mile that went through Scott's neighborhood, where he lived, and where his family and friends were, I mean, I think 5 was pretty close to my fastest mile of the entire race. I don't know about you guys, and again, thankfully, mile 5 had some downhill to it, woohoo, because we needed that. But I felt that presence. I just felt that, just that rush, that surge, that I want to do well here. I'm feeling good here. Scott's watching us now. He is a man who many people care about, who is now out of pain and is not suffering and has moved on to his next adventure. And so for us, all we could do was run for Scott at the Liberty half, and I think that that's what we did. I've seen nothing but smiling pictures, smiling finisher medals, smiling everything coming out of that race. People ran good races. People had a great time. The sense of camaraderie was there. You could feel it. Even though we were standing in the gym when word came down, when the phones lit up of Scott's passing, there were some hugs, there were some tears, but nobody lost heart. Nobody's like, oh man, I don't know if I can do this race now. This is just so upsetting. No, 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 no. In my response to the group chat that we have going when this happened, it wasn't, oh man, this is terrible, or oh gee, how tragic. No, it was lace them up tight, because today we're doing work for Scott, because that's what he would have wanted. From my understanding of the man, who I never met personally, but who I know had a profound impact in the Kansas City running community, he would not want us to miss a race or to feel bad for ourselves because of his passing. He would want us to lace up the sneakers and get to the start line and go. And that's exactly what we did. Again, I saw so many people Saturday morning at the Liberty Half Marathon, people running for Scott, people who had just learned of it as we were there, but nobody turned around and went home. Nobody was like, oh, I can't do this. No, people showed up. They put one foot in front of the other. And from what it looks like, everyone had a great race. So look, Scott, wherever you are now in the great beyond, you are out of pain, and your legacy that you leave here in Kansas City will be felt in the running community and beyond for a very, very long time. So to that, I salute you, sir. I thank you for everything that you've done. I hope that you find peace. I know that you're now out of pain. And so all of these things, they make me happy knowing that someone is in a better place. Again, this is for me. Your opinions are your opinions, but that's where I'm going to leave it. So again, to Scott Green, the bearded runner, thank you. Now, let's move on to the rest of the Liberty Half Marathon weekend. It was actually a great weekend for the podcast. As most of you know, especially if you went to the race, we had a table at the expo. So thank you very much to the Liberty Half Marathon for allowing us to have a table up there. It was a lot of fun. I was a little worried, not going to lie, because the morning was kind of slow, but thankfully the afternoon picked up quite a bit. And so ran into a ton of people who listen to the show, people that either I know or people that I don't know who listen to the show. One big shout out that I want to give is we actually had a listener from Arkansas who heard about the show, has listened to the show, doesn't completely hate it, likes it, came up to do this race, and I got to meet him at the expo. So Mr. Richardson from Greenwood, Arkansas, I want to make sure I got the town right. Thank you very much. It was absolutely my pleasure to meet you, sir. And I can't wait to run into you again at other races. But it was a joy to talk to you both at the expo and then race morning as we walked to the start line. I would love to know what you thought about that race because Liberty, even though we all did pretty well, Liberty is no joke. And I hope you handled those hills without any problems, which I'm sure you did. Much faster runner than I. But again, the expo was a wonderful time. We had a good spot right before you got to the apparel table. That is where the Back of the Pack podcast was set up. So we got to see people as they went to pack and pick up, after they got their packets, and as they were coming back around to leave. So that was good. Connected with some other vendors, connected with some other races. Our buddy Mark was there from the Top City Half Marathon. Top City's coming up, everybody. April 27th. Don't forget. And I know he was offering a good special at the expo. So keep a lookout for him. Next, we're going to be at the Rock the Parkway Expo. So make sure that you look out for us there. But so we'll have it all set up for the podcast at Rock the Parkway, the second race in the Heartland 39.3 series. So what does that mean? Means I have to eat a little crow from last week because I was totally off. I said that Rock the Parkway was the first race in the Heartland Series. Completely wrong. It was Saturday at Liberty, so I was way off. Liberty is the first race in the Heartland Series. That's done. Second race, Rock the Parkway, coming up in less than 2 weeks. Last race, Garmin Land of Oz half marathon. Then we complete the series. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know why I was so off. It was definitely, I don't know, runner's fog, runner brain. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But when we get so many races coming up that we have, you got to forgive me for getting just a hair confused once or twice. But our next race is the Easter Egg 10K in Overland Park, Kansas. That is coming up this weekend. And then we're right back to the half marathons. So I hope to see you all at the Easter Egg 10K. I did get a request, and we've already taken care of it, that on our website, www.botppod, so back of the pack pod, so botppod.com, someone asked if we could put a calendar up there of all the races we're going to be at. What a fantastic idea that I should have done a long time ago and just never did. But we have the calendar up now. I am in the process of updating it as we speak. So you can just kind of go to the calendar, hover over it, and you'll see what race we're doing on that weekend. So if you choose to join us, super great. If you're doing a different race, no problem. Remember, every Monday, we are doing Metal Monday on Instagram and Facebook. Use the hashtag Back of the Pack Podcast when you post on Instagram, or you can just respond on Facebook in the thread right there and just show us what you ran that weekend. It's Metal Monday. Doesn't have to be the race that I do. I actually want to see what races you do. If you do a different race and it's a really cool medal, I want to know about it, because then I'll probably want that medal for myself and I'll go do it. So check out the website and check out the calendar. Always make sure you're staying tuned to social media, because Instagram and Facebook are our two biggest social media platforms. That's where you'll see all the fun stuff that we do. So I'm trying to find something almost every day, but we've got Metal Monday, we've got Race Shirt Thursday, and recently we have started Flashback Friday. So on Monday, show us your medal. On Thursdays, show us a race shirt that you like. Doesn't have to be the most current one that you've worn, just a race shirt, one that you think is really cool or it means something to you or it was a memorable race. And then Friday, we go to the Wayback Machine and we want to see pictures from from however long ago, whenever. It can be an important race, could be a first race, could be any race, the one that you ran with your bestest friend. Doesn't matter. That's what we're trying to do, just to have some fun on social media, because if we're not having fun, what are we actually doing here, right? So, okay, Liberty half marathon. It is hilly. We knew that. We knew that going into it. The morning was beautiful. So I got to the race. It was about 6 in the morning, I think, when I got there. I wanted to be able to park close to the building and not have to take the bus in, because I'm just like that. Only problem is I got there too early. So yes, I got to park by the building where we all meet, but I was all the way at the ass end of the parking lot. So it was still a long walk for me to get inside. Got inside, powdered my nose, because as a runner, you always want to look your best before a race. There were going to be a lot of photographers out there. Got the message about Scott as I was there for just a couple minutes, kind of gathered with close friends. We all shared the information with each other. We all, talked, just kind of hung out together. It was really nice. It was good to be around fellow people who knew Scott way better than I. But again, no one was packing it in. No one was folding their tent and saying, I just can't. Everyone was kind of feeling it. Everyone's like, you know what? We're ready now. Like, we're ready to go. This is what we do. Yes, we have lost, a lot of people lost a really close friend, but we're not going to let that beat us. We are ready to run. So as the morning went along, more and more people come into the gym. People are talking, pictures are being taken, and then it is time to head to the start line. And that's exactly what we did. We all head out of the gym. It was a chilly morning. It started around 31, 32 degrees. So we were right at freezing for the start of the race. Nice breeze out of the north. That is the one thing, and I know I've said this about Liberty. I know the breeze was out of the north. I can see which way the flags are going. But I tell you, on that course, it does not matter what direction you turn, the wind is in your face. There is never a point in time where the wind is at your back. But that breeze made it a little cooler. So for me, I had on long pants. I have my knee pads underneath. When I wear long pants, I wear the knee pads because my knees hurt these days. I had on 2 layers of shirt. I even wore the gloves, but yeah, I didn't want to start cold. So dressed up, stiff breeze, we're ready to go. Liberty, credit to you guys. Stroke of 8 o'clock, we were gone. You might have even gotten us at like 7:59 and 45 seconds, if something like that. It seemed like we were bam, ready to go. So credit. I love it when races start on time. That is one of my most favoriteest things ever. Don't leave us sitting there 5 minutes after the fact. And we're off. The course has not really changed over the last couple of years. If there were changes, they are very minimal. We're cruising along, cruising along. And I'll tell you this, I love it. I absolutely love it when on the course somebody says, "Hey, I like your podcast," or I had one person say, "Hey, I'm listening to you right now." I don't care how much I'm huffing and puffing. I am absolutely, if I can't talk, I will give you the thumbs up because I love hearing that you guys are, listening or fans or whatever. That just makes my whole race. So I had that a few times along the course. I consider myself fortunate for that. But we're cruising along. Ran a pretty good first 5K right at hill right at hill 3. Well, you can see where my mind is. Right around mile marker 3 is when we get to our first real bad hill. I mean, real bad. There were already some hills beforehand, but mile 3, our first real bad hill, we get up that. It kind of takes us up to the top to a school. Then we turn right at the school and we're up some more hills. We're kind of meandering around back there in the back. We got to around to mile 5. I keep saying hills. It's like this is a hilly course or something. Right around the mile marker 5, we get some downhills. We're trekking along, and then it takes us up to the oh my goodness, my brain just turned off. Could you guys see it? Did you see like the hamster just stopped running and things? Anyway, we got to the frontage road, the road that runs along the highway that takes us down to Liberty Hospital. I hate that road. I really hate that road. Now I get it. You cannot shut down traffic absolutely everywhere. Like cars have to be able to move here, there, and yonder. But I hate that road because that is always where you run into traffic issues. And it always makes me nervous when they let a car turn. Now we're heading, along the right side of the road. It's one lane each way. So any car that wants to turn right, they should be in our lane. That's where we're running. But they go to the other lane and they're driving along the wrong way to try and get out and get away from the runners. And I get that. But there's a lot of hills. It's just a lot of rolls on that little frontage road. So when they get towards the top, I'm always scared to death. There's going to be a car coming the other direction on the other side that they're not going to see each other, and we're going to have a big old issue. Thankfully, no issues as far as I could see. I'm thankful for that. We go down, we turn off the frontage road onto a street by the hospital. That's where you hit your halfway point. Mile 6, I'm cruising along and feeling good. Like I honestly, at least for the first 10K, was feeling great. We tootle along, get through an aid station, cross the halfway mats, and then this is another part that I don't like about this race. Is it make or break? No. Is it something that's like, I'll never run this race again? Absolutely not. We go on this walking path, like kind of not really through a park, but kind of through a park, but it gets real narrow and with trees along the side, roots have kind of pushed up the walking path, so it's very uneven. But that's the only real part of this stretch I don't like is that walking path. Because like I said, very narrow. You almost have to run single file. The only way you're gonna, you're not running single file is if you're passing someone, and you better pass them quick. But again, small potatoes in the grand scheme of things. But we come out of the walking path. Now we know that when you come out of the walking path and you have kind of the hospital behind you and it's a scenic little area, there's a photographer. He's always right there. He is always right there when you're done with the walking path. So make sure that you're ready. You put on your best smile. For people like me, we try and suck it in a little bit so we look good on the picture. You give them the thumbs up and then you move along. Coming up to mile marker 7, super great. After mile marker 7, we go across the street. Thank you to all the Liberty police officers who all kept us all very safe during the race. And then we go back into this industrial area. Okay. The industrial area is where you come up with some more hills. And these are not the pleasant hills. And this is kind of where you're out in the middle of nowhere. You're not by downtown. You're not by Old Liberty. You're not by the hospital. It's a Saturday morning and it's an industrial area. So there's not a lot going on out there. Very wide open. You can tell it's one of the newer parts of town, but it's just very empty. And so ran into Andy, our buddy, the KC cosplay runner. Make sure you check him out on social media. He and I were kind of back and forth all day. He had like completely tracked off and left me in the dust earlier. Apparently a restroom stop later and he's catching up to me again. I'm like, where did you come from? I thought you were way up there. Anyway, Came across him around we were coming up to mile marker 8, which is at the top of one of the ungodly hills. First hill where I actually started to struggle a bit. So mile 8, I wasn't really doing great. I made a rhyme. Isn't that adorable? But we fight through. That's what we do. Get up the big hill, past mile marker 8, hang the left into more of an industrial area. And that's where there's still some more uphill, but then we started downhill. We get a little bit more rolling. Okay. We're rolling along. All right. I'm kind of catching a second wind. I actually get a phone call. I get a phone call around mile marker 9. I had a medical issue with a relative come up. So I was being called by the surgeon who performed some surgery. So yes, I felt like a moron. I'm there at mile marker 9, running along. I check my watch because phones, my watch thing, it lights up when I have a phone call. So I hit it. So I have my headphones on and I'm like trying to cover it up so I can hear. And I'm talking into my watch. I mean, this is an absolute Dick Tracy moment right here. But it took me down to a walk. So while I'm talking to a surgeon, I'm kind of catching my breath and doing a little bit of an uphill. By the time we wrap up that phone call, I'm ready to go. Like for whatever reason, that was enough recovery for me. I hit that downhill at mile marker 9 and I'm feeling real good. And I'm just trucking right along at that point. Like actually my split started to come back down a little bit, which doesn't happen for me when we get to mile marker 9, trust me, or beyond. Then we get to a part, and I think this is going to be a problem that every runner can identify with because it absolutely has hit me before. And you can see if you're watching the video, I just leaned against my sign and it turned off. Whoops, sorry. Before this race, there was a part I was thinking about. There was this really bad hill. And I was thinking about it that morning. I'm like, man, that hill. I'm so glad that hill is part of running with the cows and we don't have to deal with that hill today. Wrong. The hill I was thinking of was actually part of the Liberty Half Marathon. So the hill around mile 10, the one where you go down a hill, you go over, I don't know, what would be a little creek, which floods if it rains too much. Then you have to go up, up this steep freaking hill around mile marker 10. And it is no mercy. So that hill got me. But once I completed that hill, thankfully, I was able to find my pace again. All right. They did not completely derail me for the whole rest of the race or take me out of it. I definitely walked up that hill because that hill gets me every year. And of course, it was a mental thing at that point because I had already thought about that hill, but I'd already placed it at a different race. And so it wasn't something I thought I was going to have to face today. So when I got to it, it's like, oh no, that was a little mentally deflating. But again, I just had a conversation with a surgeon. I knew I had family issues, things going on. I needed to get my butt in gear and get a move on. So after that hill, got to the top of it, and away I went. Went down the backside of that hill a little bit. Then you just kind of do this little hang a left, run out 100 or 200 yards, go around the cone, and then come right back the way you came. But when you make that turn, that's where you're making the turn and you're heading towards the finish line. That's like kind of the last piece. Then it's just almost straight shot to the finish line. Came across another runner who said she was actively listening to me while running the race. Thank you so much. I always appreciate it. Made me smile. Ran into another runner who I had met the day before at the expo. And so awesome seeing her. We ran for just a little bit around mile marker 11 as we're kind of doing a little more rolling hills before you get a great downhill and then a big last uphill. So the big last uphill is before mile marker 12, but it's the one that takes you back to the campus. So you go downhill, you kind of you go under the highway and you go by a little bit of a construction-ish type area. I don't know. The road is always covered in dirt and mud, so I figure there's construction somewhere there. But anyway, once you get past that, under the bridge, you go back up, and that's where you head to the campus. Once you get on campus, that's where you hit mile marker 12, and okay, we're there. We're a mile away and you're on campus. The campus of William Jewell College is the campus that takes place, or is the host, I should say, of the Liberty Half. So thank you to William Jewell. Hit mile marker 12, and I'm trucking. We go through the frat house loop, and we all know the frat house loop. All the frat guys are out there. You have your choice, and I don't know how they did it. They shocked me. I figured, okay, because I always will have a beer when we go by the frat houses. Okay. I've always joked that the only thing they will hand you is a lukewarm, natty light or, something, a cheap beer that is like lukewarm. But I told myself, hey, we are in luck this year. It's cold out here this morning. It's, 32 degrees. By the time I got to them, maybe 34, 35, somewhere in there. The beer should be nice and cold. Nope. Somehow they still gave me a lukewarm beer, even though the beer had been probably sitting out for hours. I don't know how they do it. They're magical. Magical. The ways that they can still get me a lukewarm beer. Here, I thought I was going to get a go. You think I've been drinking already? I thought I was going to get a cold one. I thought wrong. So I took myself down to a walk with them. Cheers. Had half of my Natty Light. Actually, I think it was Busch Light that they were giving out. Not a sponsor of the show, but if anyone wants to talk to me, just give me a call. I'm negotiable on my beer brands that will advertise for this show. And so after that, then it was just run, run, run. Last hill. The hill takes you back to the stadium. The stadium, you go kind of you go past the gym to the stadium, down into the stadium, one loop around the track, and there's the finish line. And so once I hit the track, it was all just find a nice little pace so you don't run out of gas at the end. And I finished. I finished with a time of around 2 minutes, 41 seconds. I'm sorry, 2 minutes, 41 seconds. Yeah, that's a new record. No, 2 hours, 41 minutes, and then a couple seconds. So for me, that is the best Liberty half I've ever done. Last year was at 2:48 and some change. So I will gladly take the improvement for this year. Gives me a little bit of hope of going into Rock the Parkway. If you haven't done Rock the Parkway, but you have done Liberty, I can assure you, Rock the Parkway is much easier. It's not flat. I'm not going to sit here and say it's flat. It's not flat, but it's easier. The hills aren't as extreme. There's not as many. There's more downhills. Rock the Parkway is an easier course. So if you did well at Liberty, you're going to do well at Rock the Parkway. So just be ready. Like I'm already gearing up. I'm thinking to myself, could I possibly PR? So I did Liberty and I was about, what was I? About 5 minutes off of my PR for Liberty. Okay. Well, gives me a little bit of hope that I might, just might, be able to pull a rabbit out of the hat at Rock the Parkway and maybe improve on my half marathon personal record. I can hope. So that is my goal going into it. So I'm going to see how we feel after next weekend's 10K. Again, Easter egg 10K in Overland Park. And then you know what? I might make a stab at it. I might make a stab at a new record for Rock the Parkway and a new record overall for a half marathon. We'll see. I might line up with the 2:35 Pacers and just hang with them as best I can. If I fall back a little bit, that's fine. My PR is somewhere around 2:36, 2:36 and a half, maybe even 2:36:45. Not that that number matters to you whatsoever. Now I'm just trying to figure it out in my own brain, but it's somewhere around there. It was at last year's Bill Snyder Highway half marathon, which I've heard they're completely changing the course of that this year. So I'm not expecting another PR there. It sounds like it's going to be more difficult. But who knows? Maybe Rock the Parkway, which was my very first half marathon in 2011, could be a new personal record in 2024. Wouldn't that be neat? Who knows? We'll see how it goes. So that is it for the Liberty half episode, I guess. That's just where we're at. It was a great race. I want to again thank everyone involved with Liberty for a wonderful experience, both as a vendor at the expo and as a runner for the half marathon, just as a runner in general. And again, everyone, I know that Scott's passing has hit a lot of people very hard, and I just want you guys to know that I love you all. I personally, with my own personal beliefs that I won't dive into, I think he is in a better place, and cancer can absolutely go suck an egg. It didn't win. Scott beat it, and now doesn't have to worry about it anymore. So wherever he is right now, whatever he is running currently, whether it be the Great Beyond Marathon or the Heavenly Marathon or wherever you want to put it, I know that he is up there running and looking over all of us because we absolutely could feel him smiling upon us at the Liberty half in his hometown. He passed the day of, you can't write this stuff, right? You can't write this stuff. It was so perfect. And I personally will celebrate anyone who no longer has to live in pain. There is no pain. There is no chemotherapy. There is no cancer. He did not lose that battle. He kicked that battle's ass. So Scott, wherever you are in this universe, man, we thank you again from all of us here in the Kansas City running community. Can't say enough good things about what you have done for us. This community is not as strong if there was no Scott Green. There was a Scott Green, and we are an amazing running community here. And so we're going to take that and move forward and continue your legacy as running ambassadors and people who will just get others into running simply by showing our love for it. So again, we thank you. I thank all of you for tuning in. I thank you for listening. I thank you for telling me at races that you listen. I thank you for your support on social media. I thank you for downloading episodes, likes, comments, all that stuff. Whatever you do to help us out, I thank you. I thank Scott. And you know what? That's going to do it for this week's episode of the Back of the Pack podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Walker. It is absolutely my pleasure as always. We'll be back next week after the Easter egg 10K. And then we continue on through this awesome spring running season now with Scott watching over all of us. And so I expect nothing but great races for the rest of this season. 100%. No doubt. We'll see you next week.